get back on the YouTube, just like refresh the. Actually, you know what? Probably gonna give you another link. Here, I'll send that to you. Boom. There you go.
The YouTube.
Okay. So to get back on the YouTube, just like refresh the. All right, Chickmate is back. I am back. Skulder and Mully are back. We've got almost everybody's back, actually. Let's see if Chris is back.
I am here.
All right. Oh, there you are. Okay. I couldn't see your window. All right, let me go back to the overlay. So this review bombed so bad that it destroyed the stream. This was the worst review I've ever read on IMDb. It was so bad I had to get R2D2 over here to repair the entire computer, fix everything, while getting shot at by other horrible, horrible people, the 114 people, or 41, who agree with this idiot. And and then we repaired it, so now everything is is back. Reporting for duty again. Yes, I mean, we're all back here for duty. And by duty, I mean shit, because that's what this review is. It's terrible. It's absolutely horrible. The idea that somebody would, first of all, say they have an intense dislike for Donald O'Connor. I don't know how to help you. I don't know who hurt you, but Donald O'Connor is a fantastic part of Singing in the Rain. Definitely not the part that like takes away from the movie. And saying that Marlon Brando, who I have seen do campy performances, did so in Godfather Part 1. It tells me a lot of things about this individual, Jojo Fla, which I can only imagine means that it's Jojo from Florida, which I am going to, in my head, say a Florida man wrote a review for The Godfather in August 5th of 2002 while completely on bath salts, and instead of mauling somebody on the highway and eating their face, they decided to do something even more grotesque, and that's write this review.
Yeah, you gotta be, some kind of douche nozzle to have that opinion, first of all, but to put words to it is something else entirely.
I think exactly and to take the time. I couldn't even find exactly how to put ratings and reviews on IMDb easily. This person took the time. I always say this about these horrible people on Reddit. You took the time to say this stupid thing. And it brings me back to what is that? With Adam Sandler. Let me see, I bet you I have it. Oh, no, it's not on this account. Duh. Okay. So, this is what this review reminds me of. What is with the... Oh, yeah, because I'm not on the right account.
A woman named Robert O.
Mr. Madison, what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
That's what this review reminds me of. Says the man who has affection for Florida. I do love Florida, but Florida man is a meme. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Florida man's a meme. So that's fun. What's so great about it? This movie is ridiculously overrated. It is merely an overly dramatized celluloid interpretation of life involved with the Italian mafia. Yes, organized crime is a problem, but this movie is not all that amazing. There are entirely too many references to it in other movies, too many spoofs, and too many quotes. It's a bad movie. Let it go. There is no real plot line, and the bad accents were enough to give me a headache. This movie is mind-numbingly boring. It feels as though I lose brain cells every time I am forced to watch this painfully shallow film. Well, don't lose any more, my friend. Most films following along a similar premise are horribly dull. Why does everyone rave about movies like this and Scarface? Oh, now we're bringing Scarface into it.
Wow.
They are awful, overly exaggerated, and generally badly constructed cinematic failures. Failures! Oh, bravo.
They study this movie in film school.
Yes, and they're cinematic failures because we know how much The Godfather and Scarface bombed in the box office. A decent script and plotline were substituted for gratuitous blood, gore, and explosions. A good movie starts with a good story and a good script. This lacks both. Every aspect of this movie was horribly boring. It does not deserve to be named the best movie of all time.
So it was not gratuitous.
Not at
for
all.
blood. There was no gore. And was there an explosion?
One.
I want to say maybe a car explosion.
There was one.
Michael's bride died. It was not a gratuitous explosion, though. It wasn't a Michael Bay explosion, that's for sure.
Well, and it wasn't a horror movie explosion. You didn't see her guts go everywhere. The car exploded.
Yeah.
I mean, even the car getting shot up in the scene at the toll booth, I mean, it's just the car. Like, you don't see, like, people, like, dangling. You know, it's not like in Falling Down with Michael Douglas where, like, the drive-by shooting scene. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, there's nothing, in that movie, I don't think that was gratuitous either. It was explanatory. It was required. You had to see it. Like,
yeah.
I don't.
Or Casino, where the guy's eyeball popped out in the vice.
Or in Halloween Kills with the scene where they're fighting Michael Myers in the street.
Yeah, but I mean, that they were going for gratuitous violence, so I don't think that's a fair comparison.
Here's why I think it's a fair comparison. That's gratuitous violence. And it's intentionally gratuitous violence. This is saying gratuitous blood, gore, and explosion. What gore is there in The Godfather? Was it the camera's guts that got spilled out in the beginning when the paparazzi got the thing smashed for taking pictures?
I don't know if you've noticed in movies like The Godfather, and it really stands out in Taxi Driver, the blood is not the color of blood.
Right.
They actually make it different to be. That's how that's how Taxi Driver got an R instead of an X rating.
Yep. Well, that was what was controversial about George Romero's 1989, which turned into his 1990 Night of the Living Dead, because he actually used the right color, and he used either corn syrup and red coloring that made it look like real blood, or he used goat blood. And they wanted to rate it X, and he ended up fighting back and forth with it. There's a couple scenes that they took out that were, I mean, by today's standards, absolutely nothing in terms of gore. But in that particular time period, they wanted to rate it X. They got the R rating, but they had to fight for it, and it delayed the release of that movie by enough time where it was 1990 instead of 89.
Yeah.
The fact that this person is saying there are entirely too many references to it in other movies, as if that's a critique of this movie. So, in other words, this jackass in 2006 is saying, too many other things reference this movie, so it's kind of stupid. That's clearly The Godfather's fault.
As much as I'd like to go to the next one, which is complete, the headline is completely unredeeming in any way, garbage. What happens if you click that dude's name, Malice in Wonderland 88? Because I would love to see what they consider good movies.
Oh, look, they rated The Sopranos, too.
2. Wait, is that the number of stars?
I think so. Rated number 2.
See, all 29, let's see, all 29 ratings.
What do they consider good? Ghost Town.
Ghost Town.
Okay.
Which I have not seen.
Glee got 1.
Sopranos got 2.
Avatar got 4. I think 4 or 5's deserved for Avatar, though.
Wow. But I mean, I don't know.
Titanic
There's something to be
3.
said for spectacle movies.
How does Titanic for the set alone gets a 6? It just the forget the acting of that movie, how accurate they had the actual sets of that, the painstaking details that they had, the interviews they did with people who were relevant to that event.
The effects were groundbreaking when that came out.
Unreal. Forget all the. It deserves a 6 on mute. The movie deserves a 6 on mute. Wow.
Well, Shaun of the Dead is only a 6. He's a garbage person.
Wow. Yeah. If you're giving Shaun of the Dead anything lower than an 8 or 9, you're actually just trying to hurt people.
Ginger Snaps 2. So why is he even watching?
What is
so
going
wait, did
on?
that get a higher rating than Godfather?
Oh, and The Sopranos. And The Sopranos. Yes.
Ginger but Hannibal
2.
Rising gets an 8.
Hold on. Ginger Snaps 2 has the same rating as Avatar. And one higher rating than the Titanic movie, which was for a long time the most profitable movie of all time, until Avatar, which became the most profitable movie of all time.
But that's why a lot of these reviewers hate movies, because they're popular.
Yes.
So they want to focus on movies that aren't popular. So Hannibal Rising, I barely remember it, but I remember thinking it was okay. He gave it an 8. He or she gave it an 8.
This is a 6 at best. This movie's a 6.
Yeah. Oh, the IMDb ratings I find are usually fairly accurate.
Oh yeah, no. So is that IMDb 6.1?
Yeah.
That's what I would give it. I mean, honestly, that's what I would give it.
Unless the movie's new and all the nerds, and it's a Star Wars movie and all the nerds don't like it and they just but all the established movies, the IMDb ratings are usually pretty accurate.
I can't believe he gave that an 8. The Prestige, okay, 7.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Fair. Riches. I didn't see this movie.
The Riches? It was a TV show with Minnie Driver, Eddie Izzard. It was good. I actually remember I watched a season of it.
Oh, see, this was 07, 08. This is when I was graduating undergrad and going into grad school. I had no time to watch new stuff.
Blood Ties. I've never even seen that.
Dear Lord. That got a 4.
Dear Lord. What? 2000 so it was an Angel ripoff.
Yeah, 2007.
But a detective turned private investigator, a 470-year-old vampire form a unique. Oh my God!
Wait, it's John Carpenter's Vampires, but it's a procedural.
But look at the IMDb rating. I may have to check that out.
It actually looks like it's pretty good, honestly. Like this has a lot of good ratings. It's 43 minutes.
He gave a 10 to Dexter.
Oh, come on, dude. Come on.
Don't get me wrong. I love Dexter.
That was a great show.
But that 8.7 is fairly accurate. But based on his other ratings, like, I don't understand where he's coming from.
I mean, maybe especially if he doesn't like gore. Are you kidding me? You don't like gore, but you're giving Dexter a 10? Oh, all right. Chickmate says here, it's edgy to rate popular good movies as shit. I agree. I think that it's cool when you're in film school to rate good things as shit.
Yeah.
Like 300, I don't think 300's the best movie ever.
But that 7.6 is dead on. That's exactly what I would rate it.
He gave it a 1. By the way, he gave Romeo and Juliet a 1. Ooh. Did he do a class project where he rated great movies as a 1 just to see people's reaction? Is that his senior thesis? I can't. This soundtrack alone gives Romeo and Juliet a 5.
It was, but this is what I'm getting at. When that came out, you'd never really seen anything like that.
Yes.
You know, I remember they had done a remake of what was it?
Midsummer Night's Dream?
No, it was called, I think the movie was named Made Men. And it was basically gangsters with Macbeth. And it was like Dennis Farina. It was all those Italian-American, and it was fantastic. Well before this. It was in the early 90s, I believe. Or actually, maybe it was around 90s. I don't know. But this came out and it said this is how we're going to make it, and like it or not, but it was cool. And yeah, I'm not Baz Luhrmann there. He had I think he did the new Gatsby and some others. So he's got a vision and he plays it out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
But like,
Um,
it had DiCaprio, Claire Danes, John Leguizamo, like,
yeah,
and it's not like. So I will tell you, I watched this movie young. I was young. I was like 12 when this came out. So I watched this at like maybe 13 years old because I didn't see it in the theater. My sister did. She got the VHS rented. I watched it with her, and I didn't get it. I genuinely didn't get it because I'd never read Shakespeare at that point, and I didn't understand what they were saying in the backdrop of what was going on. It was too fast for me, and I can tell you, like, just as a child, like, I was ignorant and I couldn't keep up, and so I lacked the bandwidth to enjoy that movie the first time I watched it. And then I took a Shakespeare class in 8th grade, so like 2 years later or 1 year later, and we read every Shakespeare. Well, I read every Shakespeare play in Old English and then its modern interpretation. And I went back after we did Romeo and Juliet and watched it, and I thought it was literally at that year the best movie I'd seen that year. I thought it was just so phenomenally done from reading Shakespeare, and we really broke down Romeo and Juliet. We played out the parts, and I had an amazing teacher, Mr. Brocious. He did a phenomenal job of getting teenage kids to really understand what Shakespeare was trying to do, and the comedy. So many funny things about what he said that you wouldn't get right now if you didn't understand the Old English. And
yeah.
we had great translator books. So I'm watching this movie now, understanding the funny lines, like all the amazing lines that are in there, and it blew me away. Like, I just couldn't believe. And I watched it again and again, and I listened. I That was what made me download on Napster, Radiohead. Um, what is it called? You Want Me? And it was from that soundtrack. And I listened to that song so many times. And it was such a great piece of that movie. I mean, it was fantastically done. How is this a 1? I mean, honestly, even if you're like, it's not my thing, like, I think the IMDb rating is probably fair for most normies who don't, they're not into Shakespeare. They're probably like, okay, I get what they're trying to do, but it's not my thing.
right.
How is it a 1? Like, what's the justification there?
Well, again, he's a garbage person, and he's writing a garbage review.
And then, of course, he gives a 10 to Amelie.
You know what? I keep wanting to see this, and it's like one of those movies. Every time I say, "Oh, let me check that out," it's no longer on Netflix or whatever.
It's
But
okay.
I've heard good things about it.
It's okay.
Yeah,
But notice it's a French movie, so it's foreign. So he thinks that because remember in his review of The Godfather, he watches American and foreign movies. So if he gives
yeah.
that anything less than a 10, he's an idiot.
He's obviously sophisticated,
Yes, he is a sophisticon,
and the illusionist. So he likes the magician movies.
which I agree. The Illusionist was great.
Yeah,
Was a great movie. I actually think it's better than a 7.6. It was a good movie. Ed Norton is the man, and it was just a very interesting movie.
Hmm. All right.
Black
What else has he got?
Dahlia got a 1. Damn. He does not like crime movies.
No.
Ginger Snaps back the beginning. What was he on the cast of this movie series or something? Like, what is
I
happening?
Yeah, I didn't know there were. I'd heard of Ginger Snaps. Which I hadn't seen, but I didn't know there were sequels.
So I will tell you, I looked up Ginger Snaps to see how many there were when I was over hanging out with my friend Alan, and we were looking at how many Ginger Snap movies there were, because we remember there was, back in the day, there was Ginger Snaps, and we knew there was a second one, but apparently there's like 4 or 5 of them. And 2004 was the beginning. Like, it's pretty bad. Of course, a Laurel and Hardy gets a 10.
You know, I know it's not a popular opinion, but I hate Laurel and
I
Hardy.
do too, dude. I do too.
I love Abbott and Costello. I hate Laurel and Hardy.
I always thought Laurel and Hardy were like the zero IQ versions of Abbott Costello.
Yeah,
They bothered me a lot.
I hate Life is Beautiful. It was like I call it the Abbott and Costello go to the concentration camp. It is so uneven. It's like a slapstick comedy, and it's not able to keep it up. It's not able to.
How do you keep it up when he's in a concentration camp?
It's yeah. The beginning is all slapstick, and then they're in the concentration. Now we're going to get serious, but it's not the how the movie goes.
Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor could not make that movie work.
And to be honest with you, I thought I was losing my mind when that was like up for Academy Awards. I might have won the Academy Award.
I think it did. I think it did.
Elton John was on like Letterman, and he just went off about how much he hated the movie. And I'm like, you know what? I knew I liked Elton John for a reason.
Oh, Sir Elton John, the man. He's the man. He does not pull punches, and he doesn't give a shit. But Life is Beautiful. I watched it in, I want to say 9th or 10th grade. Actually, it could have been earlier than that. Yeah, I think it was like maybe like 8th or 9th grade. And it was like we watched it in school. And I remember watching it and being like, this is pretty fucked up for us to be watching this in school. This is pretty traumatizing. And like, we get done watching the movie, and the teacher clearly thought that it was just the cat's meow. And she's like, so what did we think the point of this movie was? And I raised my hand. I'm like, to torture us? Like, what? Why are you making me watch humans suffering? What are we going to follow up with Schindler's List? Like, what are we doing here? Like, what, are you trying to depress us all? We're already teenagers. We are fragile. Like, why are you doing this to us? It was bad. It was. I would never watch it again. I can't say that I didn't get something out of it, because I did. I thought the relationship was beautiful between him and his son. I thought they demonstrated clearly how much he loved the girl in the beginning, but I would never watch it again.
But it was my problem with the movie. It was so uneven. You can't have. It's like you watch Dumb and Dumber for a third of the way through, and then all of a sudden one of them gets shot in the head.
Yeah, it's not. It's two different movies.
Yeah,
and not two different movies the way Full Metal Jacket's two different movies, because it leads you up to Gomer Pyle ending himself, and then it goes right to Vietnam, and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm mentally prepared for Vietnam.
But the tone is the same.
Yep.
Right? You can have a dark comedy. You can have Very Bad Things. You can have even Get Shorty, and you can have that and keep it up. The Ice Harvest is another good one I love with John Cusack.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that, but it has to remain consistent. You can't just do a screwball comedy and then make it a horror movie. It doesn't work like that.
No, I and this guy, of course, gives it a 10 and gives Godfather a 1. And Dark Water gets a 3.
Scroll. I can only see The Godfather. What else we got?
Dark Water got a 3 from him.
Is that the Jennifer Connelly?
No, this is the foreign film. It's it's Japanese, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think they redid it, but man,
yeah, I think they remade it with Jennifer Connelly.
Scarface.
Which I didn't see that. I haven't seen either one of them. So yeah.
Scarface gets a 1. Wow. Yeah. That's amazing. Napoleon Dynamite. I would say the first time I saw this in the theater, I almost walked out of the theater. I actually did not want to continue watching it, and we were getting up. There was like 4 or 5 of us, and we were getting up to leave. And it was right at the scene where the farmer is like got that shotgun up in front of the camera, and he's like, son of a bitch, and then he blows the cow's brains out in front of all the kids on the school bus, and they start screaming. And we kind of laughed pretty hard at that, so we sat back down and finished the movie. But I will tell you, I did not think the movie was funny the first time I saw it. I really did not. It took me a year later. We had the Matts that lived upstairs, and so we watched it with them. I was dying laughing. I mean, my sense of humor evolved in that year, and I was able to enjoy that movie so much for what it was. But I could see giving it a 1 the first time you watch it.
I think it's so I was in my early 30s when that came out. I instantly loved it. And the other fact was it was an independent movie, and I keep that in mind when I
Yep.
watch this stuff. They did it, you see, they did it on no budget. It was just the charisma of the actors and the script and all of that. I mean, it's just there's a reason it's still talked about, and obviously, actually, I don't even think that 6.9 is accurate. I think it should be higher.
I agree.
Um,
It was pretty
it's
groundbreaking too for the time.
it's guys, it's people like him that are driving it down. They just go, you know. And by the way, you look, this reviewer might be 11 years old.
Well, I don't know
You're
because he
just
was
like,
reviewing these things back in like 2006 and 2002. So
oh,
like,
all right.
he's not 11 anymore. Even if he was 11 when he wrote these, I mean, look at the way he writes. He writes like a pretentious college student. At a sexy, sizzling nightclub, pianist Percival lives life by the rules, while Rooster, the club's flashy lead performer, struts his stuff on the stage. I mean, this is a college kid. This is not a
Yeah.
this is not an 11-year-old. This is like somebody I've watched foreign films and American films. Ah, like this is somebody who's definitely been sniffing their farts for a while.
Well, this is what gets me with people that don't understand critics. A critic, to be a critic, you have to go and say, okay, I saw this movie. It's say it's for Rambo 2.
Right.
And like, look, hey, if you like things blowing up, if you like machine guns, if you like Sylvester Stallone, highly recommend it. If you're looking for plot, if you're looking for whatever, you may not want to check it out. Like, that's what a critic should do. That's what a reviewer should do. Not just vomit their critique up there to show how smart and pretentious they are. And that's what this guy's doing. Is like but Grandma's Boy gets a 7.
Which is not worth a 7. I'm not even a 6.9. I'm sorry. It's funny. It's very funny. But critically, as a movie, it's a 4. It's a terrible movie. It's funny. It's very funny. But oh my god, it's not even. I mean, production value. The acting is cheese. Like the scenes are bad. The cuts between scenes are awful. Like you can't. If you're gonna sit here and pretend like you're a critic, and then you give Grandma's Boy a 7, I don't know what to tell you. Oh no, Pulse got a 1.
I miss Pulse.
Oh no! Remember when you were talking about on Monday the signal?
Yes.
Pulse is a lot like that.
Okay.
It's very cool. It's a very cool movie. V for Vendetta gets it. Why does V for Vendetta get a 10? That's a critically acclaimed movie. Everybody loves that movie. Why is he giving this a 10?
That doesn't fit.
No. Although
Have you noticed he gives, it's like 10, 1, like those aren't usually ratings you give unless, yeah.
Well, really, you don't give movies a 10. That's something that a paid shill gives a movie so that they can put it up when they're advertising the movie in the trailer, like right before it comes out. Like real people that are serious about the craft know that a 10 should be used for like a perfect movie. That's why it's called 10 out of 10. It's literally got to be perfect. And I think V for Vendetta is probably a 9. I don't think it's an 8.2, but I don't think it's a 10.
No. But it's a good movie.
Queen of the Damned, 100% agree with this number 1 rating. This movie was horrendously bad. The acting was non-existent, and following up from Interview with the Vampire to try to give you this garbage, a 5.2 isn't generous. It's a joke. That's laughable.
Yeah.
So you got 1 right. Good job. Who is this? Good job to whatever your name is. We'll find you. Malice in Wonderland 88. I'm assuming that's when they were born. Good job, Malice in Wonderland 88's rating on Queen of the Damned, and literally nothing else.
And stopped in 2006.
Yep. And please stay that way. Obviously, you know, for disclaimer purposes, don't go and find this person online, dox them,
Oh, look,
etc. Leave them alone.
scroll up a little more. Okay. Oh, Ghost. So I'm sorry. He did do it on 2014. He did a
2000
whole bunch in August and September 2006.
and when did he rate this one? 2014. Yeah, he's big on 2014.
Well, I mean, if these are the only 29 movies he's ever seen in his life,
Apparently, he's been an IMDb member for 16 years. Dear Lord. But this is what we're up against. This is literally what we're up against. So I'm not going to do another one because we'll end up doing a deep dive, but I want to talk about The Godfather Part 3.
okay. I would like to give a shout out to IMDb. What a groundbreaking for a movie nerd like me. I remember when I first had access to the internet in the late 90s. And, you know, if before then, if you were just going to Blockbuster and you're like, I want to see all of Paul Newman movies,
Yeah.
you could see what they had in stock, but that was it. And there was no way to find all the Paul Newman movies. Leonard Maltin would come out with books, but they didn't have everything. They didn't like it was just IMDb was game changing. Game changing.
So I didn't realize was this really 1990?
Yeah.
Really? And the
Yeah,
first
that
one
makes
was
sense.
76?
The first one was, I thought, 72, 74, something like that.
That's a long ass time. I can understand why people had really high expectations. It's still got a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb. And I agree with your analysis of IMDb. It has a lot of good. The problem that I have with aggregators in general, like aggregating websites in general, is that, like, imagine like we're in 1999 internet and there's Willy's Wonderland of reviews, and you found them, and they're super accurate. They're close to your taste and style of movies. Maybe they're particular to crime, procedurals, drama, suspense, horror, thrillers, and that kind of stuff. And you love Willy's Wonderland and that's your website, and you'll talk about that to other people, and then they make money because people come to their site and they either donate or they click through and they get ads and blah blah blah. And then, there's another website, and it's like Patricia's Painful House of Horrible Movies. And she likes to do reviews of comedies and goofy movies, but she gives it a really nice go at it, gives it some critiques. And when you compartmentalize that, it's harder to find it all because, like you said, like you have to go to like a good video store versus a bad one. But like these aggregators really wash out all of the ability for you to know that somebody who has your taste likes or dislikes the thing that is in front of you. Because you might have to do it. You're going to read a review from Malice in Wonderland 88, and you're going to be like, oh, this is obviously horrible. And it's not really horrible. It's just that Malice in Wonderland 88 is actually a terrible person. So I have a problem with aggregator websites in general, like Facebook and YouTube, all the platforms that I'm live on right now. I have a problem with these websites as aggregators for where everybody goes, because not only did it kill the internet, because 99% of the internet's dead now, but it doesn't give room for differing opinions to blossom and really be amplified, because you're going to get washed out from everybody else's popular opinion. That's how IMDb works. It's how Metacritic works. Like everybody's opinion, just like, 100,000 people reviewed it, but the 20,000 people that probably are your people may have a very different view or take on that movie than the other 100,000 people that reviewed it.
But I think over time, and that's what I'm saying is, you look at the IMDb top 100, I fairly agree with it. And when they say like Shawshank Redemption is the #1 movie ever, I'm like, yeah, I can see that. It may not be my personal stuff with it, but Shawshank never got the credit it deserved.
Right.
And and this is where it's recognized on sites like this.
Yeah, that I agree with. But then also indie movies, new movies, movies that take chances today, any new property that is bought from an old property, any movies that were made from book series, like this is not the place to go to find out if it's good.
Yeah. Well, and there's no level of judgment. Like, they don't take things into account. When was the movie made? What was the budget? Blair Witch Project was an unbelievable movie because these guys made it for pennies. They basically, all their budget that was spent on like the news, fake newscasts and stuff got cut from the movie.
Yeah.
It was all just the kids in the woods. And it was fantastically done. The way they did it with the actors and the improv and all of that made it seem very real. But someone going back now after a million Steadicam movies like that, with blah blah blah, you're like, oh my god, yeah. Oh, the what was it? The Last Exorcism was so much better. It's like, well, the Last Exorcism had a budget and actors,
and it had 200 movies to learn from on what to do and what not to do, and people that were in the production of previous movies that were handycam, like Ghost Encounters and Ghost Encounters 2 and Blair Witch 2 Season of the Witch. Like, they had plenty of experience at that point. You're looking at a finished, polished version of a genre that was broken open by the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, like maybe not tonight, but another time we'll have to go in and look at the reviews for Clerks.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This guy sold his comic book collection to make this movie on film.
Yes,
not on digital, on film, and it was fantastic. But if you go now, the acting was bad. Well, yeah, his friends were the freaking actors.
Yeah, it was just his friends. It was people he knew. It's like the Wyan brothers in their first movie. It's like, yeah, they all took out credit cards at the same time, multiple, and then used all those to pay for their first movie and just hope to God that it paid off the credit cards, and it did. But there's people who did amazing things with very little. I mean, Blair Witch Project, that... people don't realize what an internet marketing phenomenon that was, because what the magic of Blair Witch Project was the marketing. It was at the perfect time of the internet. It was when you had a website that there were no fact checkers, there was no aggregator, there weren't 100,000 people commenting and doing LOLs, this is fake underneath it. You went to the website and it was 100% legit. They had a website. Oh my God, it's a website. Websites are real. Only real things have websites. So it was so legitimized, and like kids are looking at this going, holy shit, these people actually disappeared. And they didn't have to keep it going for long. They only had to keep it going long enough for teenagers to go see it for the first 2 months.
Yeah.
And they did a fantastic job.
Yeah. With any level, minimal research, you knew it was a movie.
But their audience was teenagers.
Oh, people were calling the Burkittsville, Maryland police department saying, what's the status of this case?
Like, it's not real. But like, we were in high school, man. Nobody was looking it up to see if it was fake. We wanted it to be real. We wanted this to be a real thing. Nobody was going, man, I hope this is fake. Let me look this up and legitimize or delegitimize it. We had shit to do. So we watched the trailer. We clicked on the website. We showed our friends. We freaked each other out. And then we went and saw the movie. And it was one of the scariest things we'd seen in our lives.
Yeah.
That was magical. I wish I could go back in time to when I thought that movie was real and watch it again, because it was literally one of the most terrifying movies I'd ever seen.
I knew it was fake, and I saw it in the theater, and it was I still think it's one of the scariest movies I've seen, and frankly, I've told my wife about it so much that she'll never see it. It was so well done, so well crafted for what they had. Now, if they had $1 million budget or a $50,000 budget, it would be a different movie. But they did what they had to do. The handprints on the wall of the cabin. They went to the local school and had the kids come over and do the handprints. I mean, that's how you make a movie, and to make it to first of all to do an indie movie like that and just to complete it is a huge undertaking. You know, I made some just very low budget student films, getting people to show up, getting people to do what they're told, getting people because they don't have to be there, and it's unbelievably hard to do. You're not paying them.
Right.
You can't even afford to feed them, and you know for you know to just to complete that kind of movie is a huge undertaking, a huge accomplishment. And then you see like I don't want to go too far off, but there's this great little indie movie called Yellow Brick Road. It's like all
Oh
one word.
my God, I love that
And
movie. Oh
up
my
until
God.
the end. And if you read the trivia in IMDb, they ran out of money.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, that sucks.
Because it could have been so amazing.
That was such a great concept. It was just such a great execution. And it wasn't until the end where it really kind of like they kind of lost themselves a little bit.
Yeah, it
But
fell apart at the end. But that movie, first of all, the concept is fantastic. It was creepy as hell. The music was amazing. The fact that like they had just sound coming at them I mean, getting lost, people just randomly dying. I mean, that movie was setting itself up to be something very, very special. And I
yeah.
loved it. Like I wish it could get picked up and then just have the ending redone because I saw that on Netflix. Like randomly one day it was just on there and it was like suggested. You know, back when Netflix had good suggested movies, like when they were like, "Oh, you like these movies and you watch these, you'll probably like this movie too." And you're like, "Well, shit, yeah, I actually really do like this movie." That was one of those movies, and I saw it. And I was just like sitting there the whole time, like, "This movie's insane." I literally don't know what's gonna happen next. It really had me off guard. It had me off kilter. I didn't know who done it. I didn't know if we were supposed to think this was all in their heads or they were the bad guys or if there was a bad guy and then the bad guy would die. And I'm like, wait a minute, now what happens? And then they're getting somewhere, but they're never getting. I mean, it was so well executed all the way up till the end. And even the end was okay, but it really could have been better.
There's nothing better than finding these hidden gem movies, you know, and usually they're indies because, you know, they don't get the press that the other movies get. But I mean, you know, every so often, especially the older movies, and I told you, like I stumbled upon uh, Race the Devil one night. And I'm like, this is a freaking Peter Fonda did this, Warren Oates, like this is Loretta Swit, this is a great movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I never heard of it before I saw it.
that was a late night HBO or whatever back in the day.
That used to be cool, but it was very hit or miss. Like the Bravo, the HBO, like the Stars, like you're just kind of up and you're watching and you're like, "Oh, this is good. This is really good." But it was like there was a lot more miss than hit. What I liked about like not old school Netflix, because old school Netflix basically is Tubi now without commercials, which Tubi's fantastic, but mid-school Netflix was best Netflix. Like 2008 to 2012 Netflix was hot. Like it had these movies you'd never heard of. They bought the rights for Paramount, Universal, Bravo, Stars, HBO, all these random movies that never got acclaim, but they were well done. They definitely had a budget. They had actors that you knew, actors, you know, directors you knew, and you're watching these and you're like, "Man, this was really good." Like the first time I saw the fourth Hellraiser movie was on Netflix, and I'm like, Hellraiser 4? Like, come on.
The first time you saw the fourth Hellraiser movie. I like
yes, that is an admission. I've seen it more than once. I loved it. I actually loved it. I think if it didn't have Hellraiser in the name, it would have been an amazing movie. It literally was just Dimension Films owned it, I think, at that time, and they just shoehorned the script that they had, and then they're like, well, let's just do a Hellraiser because we have the property, and if we don't make a movie, we're going to lose the rights, so let's make another Hellraiser. But it was a good movie. It just wasn't a Hellraiser movie. But it was good. It really was. Like, I don't know. I think that it was well done. I really liked the themes in it were good. The cinematography was good. The acting was good. The guy was great at being like a detective that was going nuts. Like, it was very good. It just did a good job. I mean, after seeing 3, you couldn't really get worse. So you know, that was the other part of that. So,
Yeah.
and
You
you know,
you
then
gave me the Hellraisers, and I've been struggling. I don't think I've gotten through 3 yet. It's tough.
you got to
It's a
muscle
tough one.
through 3 and then watch 4, and you can breathe a little bit. It's kind of like watching the Halloween movies, and you watch 1 and 2 and you're like, wow, and then you watch 3 and you're like, what, and then you watch 4 and you're like, eh, and then you watch the rest of them and you're like, oh, this is really bad, and then you get to Halloween H2O and you're like, this is pretty damn good. They did a very good job bringing it back to life. And then you watch the Halloween Resurrection and you're like, why is this even happening? Like, why is this a reality show Michael Myers movie? And then you get to Halloween, obviously 2018, which is just a masterpiece. Then you get to Halloween Kills, which is, I think it's called that because it kills the series. And then hopefully Halloween Ends revives it the way that, you know, we talked about before. I'm not going to go back to Godfather Part 3 because I think we need more time to go through all of Godfather Part 3. And it's already like 9:41. I do want to talk a little bit about, like, what for you, you know, we just talked about movie reviewers and like what makes a good movie and what doesn't. If you had a movie that you thought most people, if they saw it, would probably appreciate it, even though it really got no acclaim at all. And I'm not talking horror. I'm going to specifically say not horror because a lot of people stay away from that genre in general. What's 1 or 2 movies that you could recommend just that you think people would be like, wow, okay, I liked this, and this was something I've never really heard of?
So I would say, there's a movie called Sorcerer. William Friedkin directed it. Roy Scheider's in it. It is one of the best movies ever.
Let me see if I can find
Um,
it.
very
Sorcerer?
under Sorcerer.
Sorcerer, okay.
Very underrated movie. Fantastic. Just great.
1977?
Yeah, that sounds right.
God, I think I watched this.
Very gritty, very realistic. And it's about a bunch of guys. And it starts out by following these characters, what they did to screw up to end up in this little town in South America. And then they're hired to transport nitroglycerin to a mine to be paid a lot of money. And it's their trip through the jungle in these trucks. And it is so suspenseful, so well done. It gets you out of nowhere because I saw this blind. I had no idea what it was about. And so that's a great one. There's another one, The Friends of Eddie Coyle.
Friends
That
of Eddie Coyle.
it's Robert Mitchum, filmed in Boston. It's got a great line in it where it's the guy goes, "Life is hard, son. It's even harder if you're stupid."
I agree with that 100%.
They had
I love
it
Peter
was
Boyle too.
and it was I'm blanking on the author's name, but he was a Boston Herald or Globe reporter, and he wrote crime novels. He did if you ever the movie's not great, but Killing Me Softly with Brad Pitt and some others. But
Is it George Higgins or Paul Monash? I think it's George Higgins.
it's Higgins, yeah. But really well done. Very realistic crime movies. I love. And then let's see what else we got. I had one in my head and I lost it. Well, why don't we go another way? Night of the Creeps is one of my favorite. I love horror comedies.
Night of the Creeps.
Night of the Creeps, and again, the line from that is, "Ladies, I got good news and I got bad news. The good news, your dates are here. The bad news, they're dead."
Oh my God.
Really well done. And you talk about mixing like comedy and horror and seriousness. Oh, I know what the other one I was going to mention was Bubba Hotep.
Oh,
But,
Bubba Hotep's amazing. That's like one of my favorite Bruce Campbell movies. I mean, this movie is just phenomenal. It is so funny.
Oh, yeah.
Ozzie Davis is incredible as JFK.
Oh, and so the book that's based on is written by an author who also wrote this great book called Cold in July, and that movie was great. With Michael C. Hall and Don Johnson and um, uh, passed away recently. One of these old school actors. Did you ever see that
Nick
Cold in July?
Nolte?
No, it was oh, he was a playwright too. Um, I can look it up. You're gonna know who it is. This was like one of the last movies he did before he died. Sam Shepard,
Oh, yeah.
right? And it was directed by this guy Jim Mickle, who he he's a fan of the author Joe R. Lansdale, and Joe R. Lansdale wrote these series of books. Jeez, that it's a show, and I think it's on Netflix. I don't know if it was originally on Netflix. Hap and Leonard,
Oh, okay.
and really good show. And talk about this guy can go dark, but he writes a lot of crime stuff, but he's always got a crazy sense of humor about it. Cold in July is exactly like that. I mean, who would think up a plot where this guy, Michael C. Hall, plays a character who wakes up in the middle of the night, someone's breaking into his house, and he shoots and kills him. And they say it's this dude, this known criminal, and, don't worry about it. Well, this known criminal's father is Sam Shepard, and he wants to kill him. And they find out it wasn't his son they killed. It was some other rando. Then they go to find his son, and they find out he's a pornographer.
Oh, God.
And so they hire a private investigator, Don Johnson, to help them find out. And they're making the son is making snuff films, but he's testifying against someone. So he's in like the witness protection program. That's why they staged the murder. Like, talk about like you gotta be to
There's
come up with a plot like that. You gotta be bananas.
Yeah, there's like layer after layer
Yeah.
after layer there.
Yeah.
But
And
that's
again,
insane.
the same guy who thought up Bubba Hotep. I'm just saying.
That's pretty wild. That is pretty wild. Because Bubba Hotep, it's definitely not as complicated, but it does have one of my favorite lines, which is, question, did you, after taking some time and thinking about it, did you have any other thoughts about the movie that we watched on Monday, The Black Phone?
I loved it. I loved it. The talk about setting the tone. It was set in the late 70s. They filmed it like it was made in the late 70s. They had good actors. They went for suspense and creepiness over gore. It was just a very well done movie.
Yeah, I found...
I was surprised how much I liked it.
I found the more I've thought about it, the more I like it. Like, I really had to sit on it, because while we were watching it, I'm into the scenes and I'm into the movie, and I'm kind of like trying to figure it out and trying to figure out like what's going on, and the suspense is really good. But now thinking on it more scene by scene and kind of picking it apart, I'm like, man, it just did such a good job of telling you so many horrible things without showing you one bad thing. They
Right.
never show one bad thing. That, like, in terms of Ethan Hawke and what he did, he was a horrific, terrifying monster. And I'm watching this movie and just taking that for granted, that like, oh my God, this guy is so disgusting and horrible and literally the worst possible human being on earth, and so scary for this kid. And the child actor is so good that you feel that fear, that terror, but also that defiance, that heat that's coming off of him. And without showing you one thing this guy does. I mean, even his father was belting his sister in the movie, and you're like, man, that's rough. And that was a very well acted out scene. Like, holy crap, that girl can act. She's got chops like nobody's business. But like, I'm thinking about Ethan Hawke's character. They never show him do anything. The worst, there's only one time where like he does even anything, and it's not anything that you kind of are insinuated the whole time.
Yeah, he was fantastic in it, and I really, he's like one of those actors where if he's in something, I watch it because he pays attention to it. And talk about it. Did you ever see the movie Predestination?
Predestination.
You want to talk about a messed up sci-fi movie, time travel kind of thing.
I don't know that I've seen Predestination.
Then I really don't want to talk about it because I don't want to ruin anything.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna hold this.
Actually, I have it, so we can watch it together, and
good.
I would love to get your take on it because I love horror. I love every genre of movies. I love Remains of the Day and Night of the Creeps and everything in between. So that's the one thing that you tend to do being a movie nerd is to follow actors that make good choices, even if they're B movies, right?
Yeah.
There was a time where if Scott Glenn was in a movie in the video store, I'd grab it. That's how I found Man on Fire. That's how I found a lot of movies he did that were great. And he ended up doing a lot of like B movies too, but honestly, a lot of them were pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean that's what got me to watch Titanic was that it was James Cameron. I was like,
for me, it was Billy Zane. I watched everything Billy Zane was in. So
yeah. But then that movie got me to start watching what Billy Zane did, and that got me to stop. Everything branched off of that, but it was all because of Terminator 2. So all roads lead to Terminator 2, if you think about it. So thank you very much, actually, for coming here on a Thursday, especially pinch hitting. It was really cool. And guys, if you're watching this, if you have any other questions for Chris, hopefully I'll have him back on. Let me know if you want him to come on, what questions you have for him, what things you want us to go over, bitch about, make fun of. If you liked us going over some of these reviewers and reviewing the reviewers, that was kind of fun. It was like it's like being a critic for critics. And so this was fun. Thank you guys for being on here today. And Chris, if you want to shout anything out or anything people can be directed to or anything you would want to say before we end off.
No, all good. All good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again for being here. And thanks everybody for joining and commenting. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the only real time, if it's the only one that matters. So 8 p.m. we'll be on, and we'll be talking more about definitions and things that matter about how we talk. So I'm going to put on some music for y'all, and we are going to end off. So sayonara, suckers.